Bob's personality was both quiet and yet energetic. He always made sure to listen. I think he was generally interested in other people.
A very calculating personality. He never said anything off the top of his head. It was always thought out and composed in a way that he wanted to make a point.
He was an immensely proper kind of fellow. He wasn't the guy he was not Mr. Wild Party. He was a fairly serious guy.
A consummate professional, really smart. For me, more importantly, the level of care that he had for his clients. He's one of the smartest lawyers that I knew, a great writer.
He got me interested in the Conference of Bar Associations, also through the San Diego County Bar Association, the Appellate Courts Committee. Bob was really active in civil rights issues, and for the Homann Law Association, he was their amicus chair.
Because one of the things that we did together is we sailed around the world for 11 and a half years. During that whole time, every time we would arrive into a new island or a new town or what have you, he would go out into the market or go to get his hair cut. And by the time he would be done, he would know everybody in the haircut place, and we would be invited out to dinner and we'd meet other people.
He was a JAG lawyer, served in the Navy, Vietnam era, and he also was the founder of the first LGBT Democratic Club. He had a vision, and he understood from day one that he could leverage his position as a professional to help advance the welfare of the community.
He was active in the ACLU, and in those days, when lawyers took on ACLU cases, it was always volunteer lawyers and always pro bono. One of the reasons that he did that kind of work is because of his compassion for people whose rights were at stake. He was one of the lawyers on Collender versus Lawson, seminal civil rights case out of San Diego. The Supreme Court found a San Diego ordinance unconstitutional. It found that you couldn't just stop people on the sidewalk for no reason when they're walking and ask for their ID.
Bob's legacy, I think, is in the mentoring that he did of young lawyers. From hiring his law clerks, that he really gave them a lot of close mentorship, but also help open doors. His legacy, I think, is the way that he has touched many young lawyers and provided them with not only experience in the law, but connections.
He also loved the idea of mentoring and giving people a foot up, the ability to discuss where they're going and what they're doing. And I think that is one of the biggest things that he would feel would be he hoped would be a legacy, where he was able to help people move into what they wanted to be and who they wanted to be.
And being for many years, one of the small handful of lawyers just willing to represent people in the LGBT community. I know that people now are thinking, really? Trust me, the money was not always green enough. Sexual activity between people of the same sex was a crime in California until 1976. It was considered an offense of moral turpitude for licensing purposes. You might lose a license to practice over it. And so when Bob started doing this work, our lives were still potentially criminal.
But for me, I think it's particularly important that a civil rights lawyer is being honored. Sometimes I think civil rights lawyers don't have the public persona that other types of lawyers have. And Bob was a humble guy. He's not out there, tooting his own horn. So for me as a civil rights lawyer, I couldn't be prouder that, one of our pioneers really is being honored.
20 years ago, 30 years ago, it just wouldn't have happened to have Bob as this openly gay man and lawyer honored by the bar these weren't the things that happened in the past.
Thank you, Bob, and congratulations.